All right, so here's what I want to do today. Today is the 5th. The first 5 levels of Blade are due today. They were due Tuesday, but I didn't make it Tuesday, so now it's today. I looked yesterday and everybody was close or finished with at least those 5. Some of you have started on 6, that's good. The last 5 levels of Blade are due on the 14th, which is a week from Saturday, which is also the day of our final. Has anybody verified that I got the final date right and time? And was it 1:30?
Yeah, like 1:30 to 4:30 or something like that.
Let's go double check. 1:30 to 4 p.m. it looks like on that Saturday. Oops, it's not my data. So, what I'd like to do before the final, and I mentioned this before, is everyone needs to be on a team. Your teams can be 2 or 3 people. If absolutely necessary, you can ask me for permission to go to 4 people. I don't think we need to do that. The class is only 16 people. The natural way to make teams is first, the people that you've been working with on the homework, if you've been doing those in teams, probably makes sense. You can merge with some other person if you want to make it 3. I'll be asking you next week to announce what your teams are. And it's just going to be like team name, so you'll come up with a name, do whatever you want. And then team members, and then I'll make some VMs. And in this case, it won't be one VM and everybody's on the same machine, but that was Razor and that was Blade. And that has caused problems where you guys have been writing to me saying like, this level's screwed up, and that's because somebody else screwed it up and left it screwed up, right? That won't happen on the final because you'll each have your own individual machine. On the day of the final at 1:30, we'll all meet in this room. Each team will take a separate table. Should be easily plenty to go around. It's not a library setting where you can't talk. You can be as boisterous as you want. Of course, I'd ask you not to give away ideas, like yelling them out. You can ask me, call me over to your table or whatever. But you don't have to be whispering and self-conscious about being super quiet. You're going to bring your laptops as usual. Be prepared with whatever tools you want. You can bring, you can of course use Kali and any other tools that we have. Used throughout the class. I'll ask you not to just use a automated pen testing tool. That's not what this class has been about. So if you're trying to do SQL injections using like SQL map to try to brute force forms and stuff, please do it by hand. And we'll talk more about SQL injections soon. But that general idea of like, I want you to use the themes of this class. You won't have an account on the machine, unlike Razor and Blade where you do have an account. You won't have an account. All you'll have is an IP address. And there'll be a website. And this website is going to have vulnerabilities. And eventually you'll be able to get onto the machine that hosts the website. And once you do that, there'll be ways to escalate from certain accounts to certain other accounts with more privilege to eventually get root. Once you have root, you're done. You write up as a team one document that describes what you did from the start to the finish. You submit that to me via email, and you're done for the semester. Okay? But anyway, more on that next week. Any questions about anything? All right. So the next 5 levels of Blade, a lot of people have done level 6 already. Level 7 is cross-site scripting, and we're going to talk about that today. I think level 8 or 9 is an SQL injection. We'll talk about that probably next Tuesday. I want to show you, if you'd like to either play with it now or put it in your pocket to play with later, there's this nice platform for web-based hacking, all the kinds of Blade level activities we've been doing and more. And it's called the Damn Vulnerable Web Application, DVWA. I've got it on Razor, running on Razor. So let's see. I'm logging into Razor, I'm forwarding a port, just like we would on Blade, forwarding port 8088. And it looks like this. Is it big enough? So the default login credentials when you first install DVWA is admin is the name of the user and password is password. And I'm not too concerned with the fact that I've got this damn vulnerable thing going on Razor because Razor is
Not accessible.
it's a private IP, right? And the only way to get to it is if you have an SSH account to the gateway machine that we are going through. So you guys have access to this. You can also just download and install it in VMware or VirtualBox, play with it yourself. When you log into this thing, it has a bunch of options. Just instructions, reset the DB. If you mess up the database, you can reset it to its starting position. All of these subsequent little buttons down the left side are all the various kinds of vulnerabilities that are available. And then there's also a security setting down here, DVWA security. PHP info is the PHP info page. Did I show you this already? In PHP, if you do PHP info as a function call, it generates a web page and sends it back so you can see all the configuration options, what's turned on, what's turned off, PHP, what modules are loaded, and so forth. The security has 4 levels. So I've currently got it set to low security, but you can go low, which is supposed to be 0 security, which means you should be able to exploit it pretty easily. Medium, there's some countermeasures installed, makes it a little bit harder. High is usually very hard to break, but supposed to still be exploitable. There's some kind of problem still. And then impossible is an example of what they think is unexploitable. Like they have a perfect implementation with all correct sanitizing and all of the proper parameterized SQL queries and so forth. I used to call this high in the old days, but in the new DVWA it's called impossible. So I've got it set to low. If we do an example, this is command injection. So the example application is enter an IP address and hit submit. And if you go down here to view source, unlike in Blade, unlike in every other web application known to man, you got a button that shows you the PHP source code, which of course gives you a huge leg up on exploiting things. What is this doing? How does it receive its parameters? Post. So it's going to read a post variable that is submitted from this form. This form was just a text field that says enter an IP address. It gets the value of whatever you entered and calls it target. It then looks for Windows versus Unix. Why? I guess it looks like they run ping in a slightly different way for Unix type systems. -C4 means run 4 pings and quit. In any case, so this looks for something called PHP uname, and if it's Windows NT, they do it this way, otherwise they do it this way. And they get the output from this shell exec, and what do you think shell exec does, this PHP command? It runs this in a subshell, right? It spawns a shell and runs this command. And what's the problem? After
Target just gets injected.
13 weeks of this class, please everyone yell out what the problem is. Shell exec, you get to specify in that text box this target string, which is then going to be appended to this ping command. So what could you do?
Bash format attack.
Bash format?
Well, I don't know the proper way to phrase it, but you put the semicolon in.
It's called the semicolon attack, right?
Okay.
That's what we've called it. The semicolon attack is the name for everything, including the semicolon attack, but also the pipe attack and the double ampersand and the back quotes and every single way of getting something to execute using bash syntax right? The Santa Claus attack, I mean, that's what we did with Santa Claus too. So we can faithfully just enter an IP address like 8888 and hit submit, and it will ping 8888. What's 8888?
Google's DNS.
Google's DNS. It pings it 4 times and quits, just as expected. But of course, we could do semicolon ls, and then it's going to do the ping, but it's also going to run ls of whatever directory this was, shell exec ran in, right? If we go to a higher level of security, what do you think is going to happen?
Sanitized.
Yes, absolutely. Let's sanitize this, right? So, for example, here's our low security. But for medium, it starts to blacklist things like the semicolon and double ampersand. However, that leaves out a few things, right? Pipe symbol, or instead of double ampersand, double vertical bar. That's the logical OR. So in the high security, they do a lot more. These parentheses, because parentheses means run this in a subshell, that spawns a shell. Backticks, $, why? What's wrong? What's $? That's just a shell variable. Why do we have to sanitize out $? $paren, right? That's the new format for backticks. That's the correct modern format for doing backticks, is $paren. This is the pipe symbol. This is semicolon and ampersand again. I'm not sure why. What's hyphen? What's the problem with hyphen?
Oh, isn't hyphen when you can start doing standard in? Like
Yeah, you can do redirects, but they don't. I don't know. Redirects don't run a command. Anyway, does anybody see the flaw? This is high. And I'll give you a hint that it's this list is the problem. There's some flaw in this list.
I noticed that double vertical pipe is double pipe is there, but not double ampersand.
But single is, right?
Yeah. So it makes me wonder if there's.
Anybody noticing the space after the pipe symbol here? So it only filters it out if you leave if you go pipe space something, but you can do a pipe without a space. So that's how you break the high version. Kind of silly, but. And then this is the bulletproof version. If you want to go look at this, go ahead. But they basically explode the IP address into octets, in other words, into bytes, and then they make sure every one of them is numeric, and they paste it back together and then ping. So it's in sanitizing, the right way to do it is not to blacklist all the symbols you think are bad, but instead to whitelist the only symbols that are good. And plus, you want to avoid sanitizing if you can, because it's always hard to get right. In some cases, it's the only thing you can do. Let's look at one more. I don't know. Let's do file upload. All right, I'm going to ask you to break this, but it's not clear what the attack is, because you have to know more about this vulnerability than just what's shown, which is choose a file and then hit upload. So have you seen websites like this before? File picker, it opens a box, you choose something, and then you upload it. So any ideas? I mean, it's unfair to ask you for ideas, but what's the potential problem with uploading stuff? And if you saw that pop-up, you saw what I was uploading last night. Did you see it? I mean, a lot of websites let you upload files. Where do you think they go? To some special directory in the web server, right? To an upload directory. All right, well, that's the case here too. The problem is that where the uploads go is a place that is still valid for PHP commands to be interpreted by the web server. And it's a place that's still accessible with a URL, okay? So, number one, I can see the uploads directory through the URL. That shouldn't be allowed. So your web server should say, I upload to here, but you can't actually go and browse the upload area. You could see other people's uploads. And in this case, the really scary vulnerability is that if I upload a PHP, and then I go via the URL to that PHP, the web server fetches it to show it to me and executes it, because it's PHP. So the web server should also say, I only execute PHP in these directories, not the upload directory. I don't execute PHP that someone put there, but in this case it does. You follow? So what should I upload?
Shellcode.
Shellcode, but it's PHP now, it's not machine language, right? So, I mean, you could still maybe call it shellcode, but
You do that the exact, like an exact call, right?
what should it do? What should it, I can, so the short version, I can stick a PHP on there and then I can browse to that PHP, which will cause it to execute. So what should my PHP code do? It's now running on this server.
I mean, if you upload another file and use PHP to execute, can you just run any file?
Yeah, so I could upload some malicious file, and I could upload PHP that executes the malicious file, then I could direct my browser to the PHP, causing it to execute, which will in turn execute this. But what is my ultimate objective? We're into payload land now. This is not exploit land. I've already got the exploit. I'm asking about payloads. Now that I can execute arbitrary commands within PHP, and with Teo's idea, within any language, I can execute it. What should I execute? Back to week 2 of this class.
Reverse shell.
A what?
Reverse shell.
Yeah, a reverse shell. You know, that'd be probably a reasonable starting place, right? So what I'm going to upload is PHP reverse shell.php, right? Which is, as you would expect, a PHP program that has embedded within it a hard-coded IP address and port, runs as a client. Why? Runs as a TCP/IP client.
Because it's for, oh, it's got to
Well,
reach, it's got to reach out to you.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So because of firewalls, because of NAT, we've talked about this, right? It's hard. If it just opened a listen port on Razor, which is where this server's running, nothing can get to Razor. Right? So all I have to do is encode within this thing. Show it to you. I can remember where it is. So within the source code, I can put anything I want. That's why it says change this to whatever IP and port you want this client to reach out to. I could put Moxie. It's Moxie's public IP. Moxie is 5289.53.70, so let's change it to that. Port 1234, that's not privileged, so I don't need root to go into Moxie and listen. All right, so now I'm going to upload that. I'll call it this because I already uploaded another one. PHP rshell.php. Why is it not there? There it is. Okay, it helpfully tells me not only that it uploaded, but where it uploaded it to. Thank you for that. Hackable uploads PHP R shell PHP successfully uploaded. So now, what do I want to do next? It's been uploaded to this victim web server.
Can you just point your browser at that?
Yeah. So it looks like it goes up to and then goes to something called hackable. It's helpful. php-r shell.php, and then
Isn't there the upload directory within Hackable as well?
oh yeah. Like that? Hackable uploads php r shell.php, and then I go there. What's going to happen when that executes?
Open a port on Moxie.
It'll open a port on Moxie?
No, you have to open up.
I need to go open a port on Moxie. Okay, let's go do that first so it actually works. What do I do? Minus LP, minus listen port is 1234. Oh, you know what? Don't we have to be in the 20,000 range? So let's go once again, sorry. I won't make the font big, I'll just go fix it real quick. So I'll do 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Did it work? I don't know. Okay. So I got this listening, and I go here. No, to make a connection. $52, $89, $53, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. It was 20,000 to 30,000 were the port ranges that were unfiltered on Moxie. Am I remembering that right? Wasn't it the 20,000 range?
Yeah, 20 to 30 should be open.
Okay, I'm gonna move this again. Just to make sure the upload's actually working. Okay, R shell 2 successfully uploaded. This has to work or I'm just gonna be embarrassed. Not for the first time. Hackable uploads, is that right? I don't know what's going on. I had it working last night. I was going to Blade last night because I know Razor can reach Blade, but I'm not sure why it's not.
What does it say on the browser?
It would normally just work. It would just say connected, and then I would have a shell here.
Uh-huh. What is it saying?
It's saying failed to demonize.
Oh.
Successfully open reverse shell, error shell connection terminated. So I'm not sure what's going on. Think about it for a second and see. What's the IP address? Do you know it by hand? By his heart?
I just remember those first two. I don't remember the rest.
Which one is it?
Moxie.
Moxie.
5289, 5370.
Thank you. So Razor's not able to see it. That's weird, I thought Razor could. All right, well, I'll do something a little less impressive. Let's just do Blade. So what's IP address of Blade? It is 10.25.0.15. Can Razor see Blade? Yes, they're on the same LAN as one another, so you can do that. Let's go do it that way, which is not as impressive, but still makes the point.
Yeah, Razor cannot ping Blade. Sorry, Razor cannot ping Moxie.
Yeah, it's weird. I don't know what's going on there. Normally you had
Security groups.
Normally you had a way to reach out from Razor to anywhere on the internet. Maybe something just changed. All right. I think you already have the idea of what I'm trying to do, but I feel like I need to vindicate myself and make this actually work. So, what was it? 10.25.0.15? We'll go back to port 1, 2, 3, 4. I think that's Blade's IP. 10.25.0.15? Yeah. Re-upload this. Go to Blade and open a listen port, yes? And cat minus LP 1, 2, 3, 4. And now go to this, hackables, PowerShell 2. And it actually gives me a prompt, so it's a really nice PHP reverse shell. So I'm on Blade, but I'm actually on Razor over here. So it's just the old friend, our old friend, the reverse shell. Anyway, flaw is I can upload PHP. That's not a problem. You can upload PHP usually, but it goes to a place that I can browse to, and then when I browse to it, it executes the PHP. Because within PHP, you can configure the Apache web server to say PHP is only executable in these directories. All right, long-winded. I should have just started with that, I guess.
Is that usually the, like, CGI bin would be where, is that usually the place where you set it?
That's usually what you designate as where the executable PHP is within CGI bin. Yeah. What do you think you should do in order to forestall that attack? Did you see me hit that button called compare all levels? So when you view source on DVWA, it gives you all 4 source codes. So this is the low one on the bottom, medium's a little harder, high is still exploitable, and then impossible is the topmost one.
Seems like they're only allowing certain upload types or ROM types.
Yeah. And they're restricting JPEG and PNG to be certain size. I'm not sure why that's an issue other than stopping people from blowing up your server with huge images. All right, anyway, there is SQL injections, 2 types. We're gonna go over both of those. We'll probably use this platform to demo SQL injection techniques on Tuesday. Today, I want to talk about XSS, stands for cross-site scripting. So let's go do that. I think I had 2 sets of slides to go through, and one I'm going to go through quickly today. And we may have already mostly done this, but let's just take a quick look. Something that may be useful for a Blade and for the final is that HTML allows encodings. The encodings are % followed by a byte encoding that's in hex. So equal is a 3D, % mark is a 2.5, space is a 2.0, so forth. This is useful sometimes for passing get parameters. 3D was an equal sign, just above. Why, if I want to send a field that contains equal signs, why do I need to put %3D?
Because equals is used for get to
That's right.
say what. That's
The key value pair is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Same with ampersand, right? Ampersand ends the get parameter and then starts another key value pair. So anything that's sensitive like question mark, ampersand, space, equal signs, all that stuff is sensitive in a get URL. So if you want to literally include those characters, you should include them this way. Now the reason this is interesting sometimes is because sanitizers often miss this stuff. They sanitize out the literal character, but then they forget that there's an ASCII encoding that needs to be sanitized as well. So you can sometimes get around sanitizers. Sometimes, and this has happened in real life, they sanitize out the ASCII encoding, but they don't sanitize out the Unicode encoding. So there are 16-bit Unicode encodings for the same characters, %u followed by 16-bit value in hex allows access to the full Unicode, 16-bit Unicode character set. UTF-8 is a different type of Unicode that's variable length. You can do different kinds of characters that way. That has to be sanitized. This is why sanitization is so scary, especially if you're doing sanitization via blacklist, via proscribed characters versus via allowed characters. Within HTML, you've probably seen these before. HTML is sensitive to certain kinds of punctuation marks. This is how you do ASCII encoding for various symbols within HTML. And you often see these kinds of tricks within the context of cross-site scripting, which we're about to do. All right, CSS, never seen an attack in my life in cascading style sheets. Then I have some slides on JavaScript, but you've already been knee-deep in JavaScript to do the blade attack, so unfortunately I didn't get a chance to talk too much about it, but you probably learned it on the fly. All right, so I had a whole bunch of JavaScript examples, setting a cookie, retrieving a cookie. None of this is necessary for Blade. Ajax we went through, and there was a level, I don't remember which one, where Ajax is useful. I think level 3 or something, I'm not sure. Ajax is also useful in level 7 for cross-site scripting, so you've already learned it, but keep it in mind, it may come up handy again. Yeah, we went through the Google Suggest thing that and I think we'll go to the next slides.
When you use a plus symbol
Yeah,
in the URL, does that get evaluated to a space?
I think so. Does anybody know? It's space, yeah.
Is there any difference between using the %20 and a plus?
Don't think so. I think it's the same.
All right, so this is slide deck. I don't know if I uploaded all this stuff. There, I uploaded 15 and 18, the two slide decks we're using, to our slides subdirectory on our website in the private area, in case you want the slides. We already talked about session-based stuff, using cookies, PHP session ID, start session, all of that. That was also something you need to understand for, I think, level 4 of Blade. But I want to talk about cross-site scripting, so let's skip down to that.
So the %20 is if you have like just a URL, it'll have %20. The plus is only with form data. It's like it's a modified URL like schema. So it only works with like if you're submitting like query strings.
All right, so cross-site scripting. Cross-site scripting is maybe the most prevalent vulnerability these days. More prevalent than buffer overflows, which have largely been mitigated by like countermeasures with ASLR, canaries, and so forth. It varies in how much damage is caused by this vulnerability, from almost nothing to the entire website is taken over by bad guys. It depends on the nature of the vulnerability. The simplest form of cross-site scripting vulnerability is a website that echoes back whatever you send it. Isn't that a weird thing to call a vulnerability? I send your website 123 and you go, I don't know what you mean by 123, but you just send it back to me. And you don't sanitize it. You don't even look at it. You just like go, I don't know why you sent me this thing that you just sent me, which is blah. Okay? So how could that be a problem? That is a vulnerability with respect to cross-site scripting. So let's go take a look at an example. So once again, on Razor, I've got I think I'm on Moxie here. One of these windows is on Razor, isn't it? This one. Didn't I have a CGI game or something? All right. This is my amazing PHP program, and it is vulnerable to cross-site scripting. Why? You send it what kind of parameters, get or post?
Yeah.
Two get parameters. They are called name1 and name2. This PHP program receives them from the command line, from the URL, sorry, not the command line, the URL, receives them and says, hello, name1, append to a space, append name2, append exclamation point, that's it. Okay? So, no surprise, but we can go try this thing. XSS.php, I didn't give it any parameters, so it says hello blank space blank. But if I wanted to, I could append to this name1 equals John, right? So now it says hello John. And then if I want to put a second name, I could put ampersand name2 equals black. And now it says hello John Black. Any surprises? Doesn't seem like a hugely vulnerable program that this is somehow compromising the machine or allowing information to be stolen. Doesn't seem bad at all, does it? So those of you maybe seen cross-site scripting before, what am I going to do next to demonstrate the danger here?
You are going to be adding a HTML tag. Yes.
Close, not HTML, but, well, it is a tag with HTML.
Yeah,
A script tag,
A script
right?
tag, yeah.
I'm going to add a script tag. I don't know if you can read this. So I'm going to set name1 to be script, followed by some JavaScript. How about alert hi? What does alert do? It's going to pop up a little pop-up box that says whatever I tell it to. I'm telling it to say hi. And close the script tag. All right, so let's just think about this for a second. If this vulnerable program blindly receives a get parameter with some value in as the value of name1, and it doesn't sanitize, and all it does is echo back whatever the value is, when my browser sees this come back and says, hello, and then script, what's my browser going to do? Execute the script, because that's what browsers do. When servers hand them something that has the script tag in it, it says, okay, this is JavaScript, invoke the JavaScript engine and run this thing, right? So now, instead of saying hello John, it says hello script tag and then runs the script that says alert hi, so I get a pop-up. Now I will take a break for a second here and note that Chrome normally won't let you do this, by the way. Chrome has XSS protection. It's called XSS Auditor. And the browser normally says, if I send you crap and then it comes back verbatim like this, I won't execute the script. If it's a script that I sent that comes back, and that's probably to protect you from cross-site scripting. There are tricks to get around this. I just turned it off in Chrome because I wanted to do this class. Probably for you, if you tried this, it wouldn't work. But one thing you can do to get around it, at least in this case where I've got two echoed back fields, got name 1 and name 2, is you can run the exploit in the following way. So if I set name 1, this %3C, what do you think that is? The less than, right? Because that's how you start a script tag. What do you think %3E is? Greater than symbol? All right, so that's script. And then instead of saying alert, I say void, open parent, quote, and then I end name 1. Anybody know what void does?
Just like a function in JavaScript. Or, yeah, starts a function in JavaScript.
Called void, right? But it does nothing. Like it's going to ignore the contents between the open quote and close quote. So I'm starting a function called void, opening the quote, ending my name 1. Whatever comes back between name 1 and name 2, which is just a space in this case, but it could be anything. It's going to be within the quotes of void, so it'll be ignored. So my JavaScript's going to come back with void, ignore stuff in between, and name 2 is going to be close that quote, close the parent and semicolon, end the void, because I'm commenting out the crap that's between, and then alert hi, which is what I want to run, and then close the script. So now I've got 2 different fields being echoed back with stuff between, but I've used this void trick to ignore the stuff between. And since name 1 is coming back with the open script tag, and name 2 is coming back with the closed script tag, the XSS auditor doesn't catch it, because it's 2 different fields. So there's not a full script in either of those 2 fields. That'll get around the auditor. I didn't need to here because I turned it off. Okay. So anyway, that was a digression on how you can get around. You can also start Chrome with this disable XSS auditor. Did I misspell disable? Disable. I have an extra S in there. All right. So any questions thus far? Does it seem dangerous? Does it seem like a big deal? I mean, what happened is I sent a script to a PHP application. It sent it back to me, and I executed my own script. I mean, I could have just executed. I can execute JavaScript in my own browser as much as I want. Why do I need to bounce it off some website, have it come back, and then execute it? What's the big deal?
Because then other people can execute as well.
I see. I see where you're going with this. All right. Well, it's not that interesting for me to execute my own JavaScript. But the idea here is if there's a vulnerability of this type, that bad websites can bounce scripts off of a vulnerable website like this one, have it come back to your browser, and your browser thinks it's coming from the vulnerable website and executes it in that context. And one of the contexts that matters is session tokens, right? So if JavaScript says, give me a session token, it'll only cough up the token if you're in the context of the connection between this browser and the website that owns that token. So, for example, let's say, I just said all this. That's called a reflected cross-site scripting attack. So let's look at this setup. So here's a web browser, and goes to an evil site. Now, how do we convince some innocent party to go to a bad website? We phish them, or we spam them with something. We somehow induce them to go to a place that has malicious intent. Now, normally, it should be safe for you to browse to bad websites, right? As long as you don't fall for, like upload, download this executable and run it, or enter your password for some other site on this site because they have a login page that looks like Gmail or something. You should be just going to another site, should be okay. But let's consider also that there's a cross-site scripting vulnerability at Wells Fargo. And the nature of the vulnerability here is just the kind of vulnerability I just showed you, which is it's got somewhere in its vast number of pages, it's got a form that when you give it something, it echoes it back, unchanged, like that XSS.php that we just had. So what's going to happen is when the user goes to this bad website is aware of the cross-site scripting vulnerability that exists at Wells Fargo, has a link with malicious JavaScript given as a parameter to that vulnerable XSS vulnerability in Wells Fargo, and so directs the user there, but with JavaScript embedded. This is echoed back to the browser in the context of its connection, its relationship with Wells Fargo. So the browser thinks that Wells Fargo is sending me JavaScript. I should execute this JavaScript in the context of my relationship with the wellsfargo.com website, including access to cookies and other information. It's normally private and wouldn't be available to evil.com over here. When the JavaScript executes, it has access to, let's say, a session token related to Wells Fargo. And of course, since Dr. Evil is the one who designed that JavaScript, what's it going to do? It's going to grab that session and send it to something that he controls, maybe back to his website, or email it, or log into IRC or something, and cough it up, okay? So the evil website is able to make you execute JavaScript in your browser in the context of a connection with some other site. It's a little complicated. Should we? This is called a reflected SSS. There's also a stored SSS, which we'll do in a second. It's a lot easier. But let's go do an example of this. All right. So I need to have two separate websites. I need to have a vulnerable website. We've already got that, right? That's Razor. It's got XSS.php on it that just echoes back stuff. And then I need to establish something else on Razor that's a very valuable item. So let's go to Razor, and let's go to that page that I showed you before called Stateful. Anybody remember this thing? What is Stateful doing?
Saves the cookies, the number of times you view the page.
Yep. So normally, a web page has no idea how many times you visited. But the way that this works is it uses what?
Cookie?
Uses cookies, and how does it, I showed you the source code, I don't know if you remember. It's been like a week and a half now. What was the technique? This is PHP, right? Stateful.php. And what was the PHP technique that I was using in order to be able to use cookies to help facilitate remembering this?
Was it reading the cookie incremented by one, display that?
But I didn't say like in PHP read cookie or anything, did I?
Session ID?
Yeah, I did a start session. This is it. Start session. That does create a cookie if it doesn't exist, or receive a cookie that the browser sent me if it already exists, and then it has access to session variables. These session variables were stored in a file, same file you stole for level 4. And it reads the current value of this thing called counter. If it's not there, it creates it, calls it a 1. If it is there, it grabs it and increments it, and then it displays it. And yes, underlying this is a cookie-based mechanism. PHP CSCI was this cookie value that was set to some random number, 32-bit random, 32 random characters was my session ID. Now that session ID is supposed to be special and sensitive and precious to thievery, right? I'm not supposed to be able to get that unless I'm talking to Razor as me. So let's see if we can steal that. via cross-site scripting. So there's two things going on. There's this relationship with Razor stateful.php, which has established this session token called PHP SesID. And then on the same website, in the same directory, my same directory, is this other thing that says XSS.php. So I want to demonstrate that an evil website, unrelated to Razor, if I go visit it, that it can steal my PHP session ID token. How would it do it? If I now surf to some evil place, what's going to be on that evil website? It's going to send JavaScript to Razor, to where on Razor?
The previous page,
It's right in front of you. This place, right? It's going to send JavaScript to here, which is going to bounce back to my browser. My browser is going to think it's coming from Razor, therefore everything on Razor, including my PHP session token, is valid to access by that JavaScript. It's going to grab that session token and then send it back to the evil place. Thereby, the evil place steals my session token merely because of this stupid thing, which is echoing back without sanitizing. All right? So let's demo that. So I have I put it on our homepage. Here it is. It doesn't feel like it's evil. Like, don't you feel like you should click this link? I mean, come on. Harmless. What could go wrong? Aw, click the link. So, let's go look at this source for this. So here is what's going on. There's a kitten, and there's the link. Now, I don't even need to have someone click a link, by the way. I could have just gone automatically in this web page, just gone to Razor and plucked out, but I made it a link to make this a bit more dramatic and instructive. So when you click on the link, where does it go? It goes to xss.php, like Bryce suggested. That's where we're going to go to bounce the JavaScript, and we're going to pass in name2 equals document location. So document.location is one way of redirecting. I'm going to say what I want to happen is when the script runs. So there's a bunch of script here. There's a bunch of JavaScript from here to here, right? And that's passing in name1 is script tag void. I'm using the name1, name2 trick in case the XSS auditor is on. But basically what I care about is getting this script tag open and this script tag closed, sent over to XSS so that it bounces off. It's going to run this JavaScript, and this JavaScript is going to, well, access the cookie. Where's the cookie? Here it is. It's going to say, I want you to execute. When the JavaScript runs, I want you to redirect, document.location, back to our class website, same directory welcome is, but instead run xsslog.php with a get parameter of document.cookie. So when this runs, it's going to go back to the evil place, which is our home page for our class, to a PHP script that is just going to receive the cookie. The cookie will be PHP session ID, and run this PHP. Is this complicated? What do you think this is going to do?
Just log the cookie.
Yeah, just save the cookie somewhere. So let's take a look. This is a PHP program that just receives this string called str and writes it to xsslog.txt. That's it. Just takes in a get parameter and writes it to a local file. So let's do it. Okay, do I not have Razor running on 8088? I thought I did. Did I kill it somehow? It's gone. I must have killed it by accident. All right. Try again. There we go. 13 and. Sorry, site is down, please try again later. That's maybe something I could say so you won't be suspicious, but I say, actually, everything worked fine, I stole your cookies. So let's go look now at this log file, XSS log.txt, and there's the session ID that was stolen. I can go verify that really is the session ID, but it is. You get it? There's a whole bunch of different scripts that we're running there. A couple PHP programs, or 3 PHP programs, the stateful one that established the cookie, the XSS that is really the most interesting and yet the least interesting program involved. It's the most interesting because that's what creates the vulnerability. It's the least interesting because all it's doing is echoing back whatever it's sent. It's one line of PHP. The evil website supplies the JavaScript to the victim xss.php on Razor. It echoes back to my browser. My browser thinks the JavaScript's coming from Razor, not from the evil place. It says, oh, you want document.cookie, here it is. Sends it to PHP that's running in the evil place. All that does is grab the cookie and write it to the disk. These are extremely common vulnerabilities. And people try to find them via automated tools and combat them, and every day there's hundreds more. A lot of times they turn out to be pretty useless, pretty harmless. There's not much you can do. Unlike some attacks, this is not an attack against the web server itself. You're not getting 10,000 user records and passwords from the password database of the credit union or something. This is for one user to attack another user by bouncing something off a website, and then Bryce goes there and he's running JavaScript that I planted that's attacking his relationship with that website. So I'm trying to get his login information or his session ID. But I'm not stealing anything from the server. To contrast, often with SQL injections, which we'll do next week, there I'm trying to actually attack the server itself. I'm trying to run SQL on a vulnerable web server because there's something in the database that's good, like hashed passwords or unhashed passwords. Questions? All right. This describes the flow, in case you didn't follow that. Hopefully you followed that. Stored cross-site scripting is actually much simpler than reflected. Here, the attacker just sticks JavaScript somewhere in persistent storage on a website. Have you ever used a forum where you can go in and comment, like Reddit style? You make comments, you post your thoughts. You're really a fan of model airplanes or knitting quilts or something, and there's this community of people where they all get together and talk about issues, challenges, favorites, and you can just type in your thoughts. But you could also type in some JavaScript. So if you leave JavaScript in a comment forum, what happens when Teo comes by and reads those comments? He executes the JavaScript that I left there, right? That's why every PHPBB and all these comment forum packages, these prepackaged server-side facilities, always scrub out the script tags to prevent you from leaving JavaScript as part of your comment. Otherwise, other people will execute that JavaScript. And so, if I can make you execute my JavaScript, I can do terrible things to you. I can grab your session token and send it to my own site that I control, and take over your session. I can make you execute JavaScript that makes it look like you're logging into Gmail. There's a whole bunch of different things that I can cause you to do if I can run JavaScript on your browser. The stored one is simpler, right? I just deposit it somewhere, and then someday you run across it, and you run it in your browser. That's it. There's no reflection off of another website. Blade level 7 is a stored XSS attack. So what's going to happen is that there's something you want to steal from the administrator, and what you need to do is you need to, as the attacker, deposit malicious JavaScript and store it on this level 7 facility. You then need to wait until the administrator comes by and logs in so that you can steal his stuff. I'm the administrator. I don't want to log in very often because I have other stuff to do. So I've got a Casper.js script. So Casper.js is an add-on on top of Phantom.js, which I talked about really briefly probably a week or two ago. No, probably a month or two ago. That is a headless browser. And it's a headless browser that can run JavaScript. So this is a script that will come by and just load whatever the latest thoughts are from the class on level 7. And if there's JavaScript, it's going to run it. It does this 4 minutes after every hour. So at 45 minutes after hour, you want to go. Why? So if this level 7 thing is compiling comments top to bottom from everybody in the class who posts comments. Okay, where are you at 45 minutes after the hour in this list? You're at the top. And at 43 minutes after the hour, you're at the bottom, right? And by the way, the administrator reads all the comments and then clears the list again. So at 45, you start from a clean slate. So if your classmate puts JavaScript at 45 minutes after the hour and she's first, and if her JavaScript runs and then takes over the browser session, the administrator's not going to read the rest of the JavaScript. They're not going to read the rest of it. Maybe your script is down here and doesn't get run. Depends on if she's neighborly or not. If she decides to completely hijack the attention, like document.location, and just redirect to a different page that has her malicious code on it, steals the cookie or whatever, then you're not going to get a chance to run. There are neighborly ways to do it, meaning that are going to run her script and then allow the rest of the page still to run. But I'm not requiring you in the class to be nice. In this case, usually I do require it that you be nice, but here it's like, okay, well, the only way you can get this to work is by injecting JavaScript that's going to take over the session. Fine. Your classmates have plenty of time. You still got a week and a half. This is running 24 times per day. It's plenty of opportunities for everybody. Okay? So if you have in your injected JavaScript document.location, that causes a redirect. So in JavaScript, if you say document.location equals some URL, it's going to go there and not come back and run the rest. Ajax should work too. What's Ajax again? Remind me.
Asynchronous post or just request.
Okay, so it's not going to do a hardcore redirect to your evil PHP steal my cookie logging script. It's just going to reach out to something, post the cookie that's stolen, and then continue down. All right. Any questions? This is an actual cross-site scripting payload. It's been a while. probably over 10 years now since this attack occurred. But the JavaScript that was bounced off of Google had an XSS vulnerability a long time ago. The JavaScript that bounced off created a page that said, Google will shortly become a subscription service, $5 a year, please enter your Visa, and so forth. Now this is kind of a phishing flavored attack, right? Because you have to believe that this is real. But it's coming from Google. This JavaScript came from Google because it was bounced off of Google by a malicious entity and then created this fake form. Because you can create a form in JavaScript. You can create all the CSS and all the form input fields and everything. It's going to be elaborate JavaScript. It's going to be a long one. But it can do it. Create fake web pages.
If you were the owner of a site that had this happen, would you have a record of, oh, it looks like we sent back all this JavaScript?
I don't think most sites are going to bother to log every single form entry that comes at them. I mean, they will if it's, setting up a password and an account and all that. It'll have to log that for future reference for your user account that you created. But as far as, every single thing that the website responds back with, that would, I think, create a huge amount of logging, slow everything down and eat up disk space. So I doubt most of the time this stuff is logged. Yeah, JavaScript can do a lot. It can run a keylogger because if you're running JavaScript and it can track every key you press. It can log that, send it back to the evil site. It can grab whatever's on the clipboard. So whatever you what's the clipboard? Yeah, the copy and paste clipboard. It can grab whatever happens to be in your copy and paste, send that to the evil place. It can look at your search history, send that over. Might be a lot of private stuff. There's a famous attack that happened now 15 years ago on a place, something called MySpace. I guess that used to be a website or something. Does anybody remember MySpace? Bands still use it, I think. Like one of the few communities that still use MySpace.
They tried to rebrand themselves. It's like kind of like Bandcamp. if you know
Bandcamp?
that. It's a similar thing where it's like bands have their pages and it's something different.
Okay, and that really is a rebranded MySpace.
No, like MySpace tried to copy kind of
Oh,
that
I
same
see,
idea.
I see, I see. Well, MySpace used to be a head-to-head competitor with Facebook. You know who won that competition? Anyway,
MySpace was cooler though.
MySpace was cooler?
Well, because you could like really customize your page and have it play music and stuff. Like it was really trashy. It was like you'd have pages just filled with crap, but like it was more fun.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
No, it's like their downfall.
Yeah, true.
You're
I
like,
just
wow,
thought-
this is a better user interface than this like person's bad CSS.
Yeah.
It's just like everyone looks the same.
Weren't you guys like 6 or 7 years old in 2005 though?
I was.
Weren't you like mid to late 90s birthdays? Bryce, you're a little older. But
Well, I was drinking in 2005.
you actually remember that, huh?
Yeah.
Browsing MySpace. I remember you.
I remember having a MySpace account in 2005.
Wow. All right. Well, this guy, Sammy Kamkar, who's now famous for launch, there was an XSS attack. There was an XSS vulnerability in MySpace. And he went all out. And he created a worm via XSS. And he would post to everybody's account, Sammy is my hero. Please don't press charges. And cause everyone to generate friend requests to him. So he had over 1 million friend requests or something in a day. Oh, 919,000 friend request manager. 919,000 friend requests from every single person. Because this thing would just, every time this person would click on that person's profile, they would get the worm and create a friend request to Sammy Kamkar. So Sammy is my hero is now a meme in the security community. He got 3 years probation, 90 days of community service and a book deal, and now he's a famous person on the talk circuit. Once again, don't become a criminal to try to secure your career. It's not a good strategy. A lot of people don't get anything other than a jail sentence out of it. So anyway, that's the most famous cross-site scripting attack in hacker history, with a kind of a positive despite the jail thing. Kind of a positive spin. But there have been effective ways of stealing information, breaking into stuff, taking credit cards, doing bad stuff as well. These things are still around, still really relevant. If you look at the announced list for all the latest vulnerabilities, tons of cross-site scripting problems still exist and are found and fixed every day. But these are usually not as damaging as SQL injections, which can be devastating. And we'll see on Tuesday what those look like.
Feels like it'd just be hard to know, though. Sort of because they are this like client-to-client attack.
It's hard,
Like you don't
and they're hard to
know, like,
find.
if somebody
Yeah.
actually passed on their information or not.
Yeah. There are a lot of filters that, the way to get rid of these is to scrub out these script tags, but it's sometimes hard to find. Like all of these are valid script tags in a lot of contexts, right? And you have to be able to find all of this as well. All right, so we'll do CSRF and other stuff and SQL injections on Tuesday. But have a great weekend. I think it's supposed to be sunny.